Right. Hi, Tony. As he takes a slow.
Let me just taking a swig of drink. Hi, Sylvia.
Yeah, lovely to have you here with us on Social Workers Matter.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah. I met you a few weeks ago with another colleague, and I thought, wow, I should ask Tony to come and have a chat with us about his work, uh, what's brought him to his work, and yeah, give us some insight, really. Social Workers Matter is a podcast where we don't only speak to social workers, but we speak to people who are in allied professions, people who have an interest in working and caring for others. So it's all about allyship, I guess, and the fact that we're all doing very similar things, just in different spaces. So, Tony, I shall hand over to you. Tell us a bit about Tony and how did you come to? Well, in fact, tell us a bit about Tony and what Tony does. Sorry to speak in the third person.
All right, no problem. My name's Tony Charles. I'm a family and systemic psychotherapist. Presently, my week is kind of split up between 2 days teaching within a social care context, teaching an accredited course in regards to systemic ideas, the usefulness and its use within a social work context. And basically just trying to give them theory of change that's helpful in them making sense when they're working with their clients, but also just developing a language, a way of asking questions, really reflective, trying to develop reflective practitioners. That's part of my week. So that the teaching, the marking, and everything, all the joys and the dilemmas that go with that. The other part of my time is spent within a youth justice service, just trying to have an impact on, once more, how they do what they do. And this is not systemic ideas or therapeutic ideas overtaking, but sprinkles of systemic ideas. So, and once more, in regards to how they make sense of the clients, how they develop interventions, how they make sense of users coming with their problems and dilemmas. And in the youth justice context, seeing crime as a communication also. So
Okay.
if crime was a communication, how are we able to deal with it in a different way, have conversations with it in a different way? So part of that. And the rest of my time, I suppose I do private practice where you see I offer my therapeutic services to clients, individuals, families, groups, organizations. I do a little bit for fostering agencies, panel work, training, parenting organizations,
Fine.
and just little projects because I'm trying to access places that have a not very healthy relationship to therapy, but therapeutic ideas as
Mhm.
well. So that's part of what you see I do.
Let me ask you, Tony, in terms of your background, did you start in social work? I mean, where did that connection come from?
Oh, okay. So I started in youth work, children's homes,
Okay.
youth work, befriending young people, um, children's homes, residential care.
Mhm.
Um, then moved on. Then I was going to be seconded by a local authority many years ago in the early 90s. But then I decided to leave and go traveling
Okay.
around Southeast Asia, kind of dropped out for many years. Um, I returned and got back and decided that I didn't want to become a social worker. I still had that idea of being seconded, but I always wanted to work within, I always wanted to work more within therapeutic
Yeah.
environments, because when I mentioned residential homes and the work I was doing before, quite a lot of them within therapeutic settings.
Hmm.
So I got back and there was a kind of like 15, I would say a 10, 15 year delay. And when you see, I wanted to in me accessing training, because I had an idea that it wasn't for, I didn't see any Black people as therapists.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
thought it was some um, white upper class profession.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's the idea of me accessing the profession. It kind of was a conflict, quite a lot of conflict within me.
Yep.
But then I suppose, as you see, I started to work, the environments I was working within, support from colleagues, friends. Then I took the leap, a risk in a sense, and then I trained originally in humanistic and integrative um, counseling many, many years ago.
Right. Right.
And from there, I kind of I saw there was many times when I'd done presentations to clinical teams, but still I didn't want a clinical role because I didn't want to be associated with a narrative or an idea that I had around the clinical profession about what it was doing.
Sort of medical
Uh,
kind of. Yeah.
yeah. So
Mm.
once more, one of my dear friends convinced me to join a clinical team after a presentation that I'd done to the clinical team.
Mhm.
And yeah, from there, joined the clinical team. They kind of done the training, and from there, it's just been leaps and bounds. Really, I've
Okay.
been in different roles and within different local authorities, different organisations.
I guess what's also interesting is, obviously, as you know, I'm involved in sort of training and education for social workers, and there's a very clear, well, relatively clear career path as far as that's concerned. And then sometimes people will do different things. They may perhaps go on to work in different spaces, i.e., the voluntary sector, or possibly even the private sector now, or the local authority. I mean, how have you felt about your role, which is quite niche in many ways, and quite specialist in many ways? How have you navigated work?
Oh, what do you mean? How? I don't understand.
Well, a position. How have you navigated positions for yourself within the teams that you've worked with or for? Um, have you? So, for instance, have you gone for? Um, have there been defined therapeutic roles that you've gone for, or have you gone in as something else and you've ended up doing something else? I'm just trying. I'm probably not phrasing it very
No,
well.
no, no. I mean, in the earlier years, I've been in a couple of roles. I remember I was this is going back years, and now something I forgot to mention. I had done some family group conferencing,
Hmm.
and I went for a role, one of those roles, and I ended up doing like parenting groups and teams,
Okay.
parenting groups, and doing some training and having conversations with families that they felt had di- had difficulty accessing the services. And I
Mm.
say that with a bit of grit in my mouth because that wasn't the case. It was how inviting the services were.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
the
Okay.
organizations, and but most of the other ones I've gone for, in a sense, or I've been recruited. I was going around the UK as part of a social enterprise that was bringing systemic ideas to local authorities across the UK, and that was it was very interesting in a sense where there must have been about two or three Black people within the organisation. And just imagine me going out to, let's say, up north somewhere,
Mm.
where you see
Mm.
there was not, I forget living in London, uh, the communities we live or I live within is quite mixed. So
Yeah.
me going up north, let's say, it was very strange. It was strange for me.
Hmm.
It was strange for the workers that I was introducing these ideas. And I speak about it within the context of culture, within the context of power, within ideas around how a therapist is supposed to look, um, the language, the way I talk with this kind of London accent.
Hmm.
Um, Yes, I don't know if that asks. I don't know if that
Well,
answers your
it
question.
does, it does in some respects, but I suppose what I'm trying to explore is, you know, there will be people who are listening to this podcast who may want to take a similar path. And you know, for people who are perhaps more interested in a therapeutic approach or therapeutic approaches, I suppose what I want to open up is that there isn't only one way. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm getting from you, that you've been almost entrepreneurial, really, in terms of your approach to your own career.
Yeah, I have to be. I suppose I had to be or have to be because it's there. I like the only one way. There's not only one way
Mhm,
to do what I do. I believe in taking people through a process, a therapeutic process, and we can do that in different ways. Within the UK, I suppose for many years, it's been a dominant way to do therapy.
mhm,
Um, what I hope to bring to the profession is something the same, but also something different.
mhm,
How can we build on the therapeutic ideas from the past? And that's not throwing them away, acknowledging them, valuing them, but how can we bring our experiences also? Um, there's not only one there's not only one route. If you say I'm talking about routes into my profession, I mean, it's really helpful to speak to other therapists. It's really helpful to speak to Black therapists.
mhm.
Um, it's helpful to speak to Black therapists in regards to their experience of training,
Right.
because training is something to navigate as well.
Yes.
As you're being
Say some more about that.
oh so quite a lot of the training and it's evolved, it's changed over the years, but quite a lot of the training was based on Western ideas of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So the dominant ideas, the dominant stories, the dominating stories within society, dominant stories about how people do families and how people do problems.
Mhm.
So in the earlier years, I can assume and I experience, oh, this is what's helpful. Yeah, this is what. So you can make it, so it kind of makes sense when we go through research in the amount of people of color within mental health, within mental institutions,
Mhm.
misdiagnosis, not wanting to engage with services because it kind of promotes, and this is quite a judgment, it kind of promotes abusive practice. It
Right.
kind of promotes we're doing to families instead of doing together.
Mhm.
So just navigating those training organizations, and I always say that they've evolved, they've changed because they've come out with policies and procedures to guide us to do things better. But human beings, we need to catch up. Our core idea and belief systems, we need to catch up with the changes. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. Um,
Um,
sorry, carry on.
no, so most of the time I do quite a lot of supervision for students in training, for quite a lot of Black students and
Mm,
white students, a range of different cultures. Um, but I find it interesting, that dilemma of, you know, this doesn't make sense to me, Tony, or I don't believe in this. This
mm,
is like, hang on a minute, Tony, not every family's like this.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So just being able to, but also being able to sit with that and have a voice and get through the training, you know,
Yeah.
which I think is a balance, because most of the training environments, not all of them, but quite a lot of them in the past, and they're evolving now. Um, they teach in a way that you're not good enough yet.
Mhm.
You listen to us. This is what you need to learn.
It's quite
I
elite.
always, and I suppose what attracted me to I suppose the systemic way of being is that with most of the organizations, um, they're in quite inviting at times of your experience and your ideas, you know.
Sitting alongside.
You're sitting alongside, so how can we do this together?
Mm,
And this is what we're trying to promote with, I I suppose, with my clients, with my families, with organizational work. I've got some expertise, but how am I able to sit with your ideas and together we move forward? We create spaces, co-create where we can co-create change.
Wow. Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, I know, the institution I work for a lot of my time, there is a kind of a contingent within that institution that tries to work very much in that way,
Mm.
the systemic crew. Um, but the dominant crew are extremely clinical. It's about families being done to, and it's about, I suppose, the privilege of the expert, um, which is still continues to be troubling to me, really, especially coming from a social work perspective, where we're always going on about kind of equality, social justice, and really understanding people's kind of social conditions. Um, so, if in terms of your approach or the approaches that you tend to work in, um, and this is simplistic, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Does it work?
Um, yeah, I believe so. I believe so. I'm biased. And if it doesn't work, what do I need to do differently
Yeah.
to create some change? So when I'm working with people, um, I've got loads of expertise, wisdom, etc. Um, and I meet with my clients and I start to develop ideas, hypotheses of what's taking place. But within that, I'm not in, I don't, I'm part of the system. I bring something also to that space. I bring my ideas, my biases, my prejudices. So I think I'm a believer that it does work. And if not, and but that's coming from me who draw on not just systemic ideas, draw on childhood ideas, draw on youth worker ideas, draw on Eastern, Western ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because there's that. Because I think it would be unfair for me personally to block out all those other experiences because we're not machines as human beings.
Absolutely not.
I've got really great questions that I ask clients, and I think I know how they're going to answer, but there's a certain level of uncertainty of how people are going to respond. So how am I able to sit within the 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 groundness, the groundedness of theory and experience, and being able to get develop a conversational dance with my clients, so we're able to co-create change. So
Hmm.
does it work? Yeah, I believe so. And it's interesting when you ask the question, because would I have a different idea of whether it's work or change than my clients?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Um, and I mean, that's a litmus test, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And maybe when I'm working with them, I might not work with them because there's that bit to it as well.
Yes. 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 I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. So, I'm also interested in. Okay, you've talked a bit about your sort of work with clients. Um, what sorts of issues arise when you're working with colleagues, other professionals? Um, what are some of their struggles? Why are you necessary?
Oh,
Yeah, that got you, didn't it? I'm not asking you to sell yourself, Tony. No.
oh no, no, no.
What do you think? Your input brings to the table in terms of working uh, with with colleagues, because I think
Are you
you.
talking about other? Are you talking about other professionals,
Yes,
Sylvia?
yes, yes, yes. I mean, I think you mentioned earlier some of the work that you do in terms of reflective practice, for instance.
Okay.
Um,
All right. And so I bring I bring a different lens. There's something about me bringing the theory and my personality together.
mhm,
There's something about me being able to sit with people and see the human being. There's something about, I mean, it taps into my previous training as well, where you see the the relationship becomes quite a highest context when I sit with my families. Um, they bring me because they need, at times, they may need a translator of what's taking place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People access me because their own um, personal beliefs and ideas gets in the way of them being able to be present to what's taking place, and that might be from within an organization, that might be within a client um, practitioner relationship. And this doesn't mean that they not great workers,
Mm-hmm.
because we all bring our stuff with us.
Absolutely.
It's just that I've been able to practice being able to think about what I bring and the influence it has in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying in the right or wrong way, but it's enabled me to develop different lenses to look through. So they try, at times they access me for that. A translator, sometimes I'm called
Hmm.
in for
Well, but I mean, can I sort of push a bit further as well
Let's
to
go.
ask you to sort of give an example? Because I think the other thing that we want to do here in this space is to give people um, an understanding of what's involved in our work. Um, so beyond what you've just shared, give us a for instance. What sort of dilemma or dilemmas, um, in a very clear way, have you?
Oh, oh, an angry father not wanting to let his child back in the house.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and and what workers respond to. So, or how do they make sense of this idea of an angry father? And if they saw the father as a caring, protective father, would they be having a different conversation with this father?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
does that make sense?
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So another example is a mother, a mother, her daughter getting pregnant at a young age,
Mhm.
and the mother saying to the workers, I'm going to kill that child."
Mhm.
The child placed in care.
Wow. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So once more, I mean, it links into like relationships to risk, but also I wonder how workers make sense of what's taking place,
Mhm.
what's part of their meaning making, what has an influence on how they make meaning of this. It could be like walking into a household, another example, and workers, and this might be a consultation, a family not having toys, and the family being described as not providing certain things for their children. The
Mhm.
family's response is, "Oh no, we play with our children," but that being kind of look
Yeah, yeah, as a poor substitute for
as a
material
poor
toys.
substitute.
Mm.
Um, culture, yeah, just could range. I've got quite a lot of examples of like,
Well,
um,
I mean, I think your whole sort of explanation initially about being a translator um, encapsulates it quite well. But I just really want people to sort of understand the kinds of interventions that you're involved in.
oh, and but also there's the way I work, the interconnectedness of what's taking place. So if I look at an example would be a young boy, a 10-year-old not attending school, um, and the parents considered bad parents. But when we look a bit more and ask some questions with the family, we see that the young person is protecting, doesn't want to go to school because he's quite concerned that the mother is ill
Hmm.
and she'll come to harm if she's at home.
Yes, yes.
So it kind of, if if we're able to be curious about what's taking place, because what might happen is like straight away we're sending the mother before we ask questions, before we we respond to our curiosity, we're sending the parent on a parenting course.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so this idea of me being quite curious, seeing the interconnectedness of things,
Hmm.
wondering what else is going on. So I wonder I wonder what's the need for the young person to be at home.
Hmm.
I wonder what he's drawn to. Um, there's
Well, I mean,
different ways.
yeah, and it does speak to some of life's complexities, really, which
Yeah,
um, which I suppose in a statutory kind of framework doesn't always fit very nicely, and it doesn't necessarily always encourage that level of sense making or meaning, um, because there's a job to be done, and there's always a rapid turnover in terms of get.
yeah, yeah, and I agree. And it's supposed to, and that's why I always wonder, what do we draw on? What kind of ideas, theory, legislation, policy, what do we draw on to help us make sense? So within a social work role, um, we're supposed to be drawing on, with most professions, we're supposed to be drawing on some ideas.
Mm,
So I think it's helpful that there's a space for, this is what informs my thinking.
mm,
This is what I'm drawing on. It might be um, um, personal, professional experiences, beliefs, ethics, morals, etc., etc.
mm,
But also, there's a place for that production where we see where where we're guided by legislation. So if the family does this, this is how we respond, meetings, child protection conferences, etc., etc.
mm,
But also, not without putting the child or the family or the clients at risk, there's a space for also explanation, for us to inquire, the sense making. I
mm,
wonder what's going on here. I wonder what's your relationship to help. I wonder why you've got I wonder why you've got such a unhelpful relationship to help.
mhm,
And I wonder how that has stopped you from accessing services. So I think there's a space for all these things, the explanation, the production, ethics, morals, etc. But I think it's just the systems changing to
mhm,
be able to support that, to be able to, which we're talking about within a social work context, to be so that the workers, they start to develop a culture where it's all right to think a bit, to have a space to think
mhm.
in different ways about what has an influence on what we see and what we and how we do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I've been involved in some work recently where we're working with supervisors to help them develop further some of those skills, because I think what's happened, as you rightly say, demand is high, caseloads are high. Uh, there's always a kind of and uh, sort of quick responses tend to be privileged, as it seems to indicate efficiency, um, but only gets us so far, because
Mm,
because I think what you're saying, that sort of need for the space to think and question and be curious, um, that has not been as valued as it could have been. So hopefully we're getting back to that with people such as yourself.
yeah, and and Sylvia, I wonder. I suppose a question.
Hmm.
My local GP, when we could access it. I mean, I remember the last time I went to the last time I went to the GP. I remember having a conversation with them and them saying to me, you know, Tony, we've got like 8 minutes or 10 minutes. I wonder what it is about that profession that they're able to say, oh, this is how much we're able to,
Hmm.
this is how many clients we're able to see where we can be efficient, where we can make sure we give you the best service. So I say that because I wonder about this idea about what's workable.
Mm-hmm.
Is it logical? Does it make sense that we overwork within the profession so we haven't got the time and space
Yeah.
to do what we need to offer our clients the best service? So what would happen if I said to a GP, oh, you've got 2 minutes to see each client to
Mm-hmm.
see, yeah, what would they say? Would it happen?
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
So what is it about this within the social care profession that we're doing this to ourselves? And that's what I mean about the systems, or the culture needs to change, because we have loads of fantastic ideas, and that includes myself, but
Yeah.
how did the system support those ideas? Now
Mhm.
we say towards golden, we need to put systems in place to support
Yeah.
the goals.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
suppose sometimes I pay attention to that. I wonder what needs to change within the system. We say with families as well, organizations, families, what needs to be changed within a system for us to achieve our goals, for us to achieve our aims. Otherwise, we have all these fantastic ideas, and yeah, we're unable to do it because we haven't got the time and space.
Well, yeah, but you know what's interesting? um, we're currently, at the time of recording this, we're currently going through the whole COVID pandemic, and
Yeah,
this has been a great. I was saying leveler, but I don't even know if that's the right expression. But it has certainly woken people up to the necessity for more contemplative activities, because all of us are thinking about our mortality,
yeah,
and I somehow get a sense that as a consequence of that, people are really seeing the need for more thought, for more thoughtfulness in terms of human relationships and social conditions and so on. And that's me being possibly overly optimistic, um, but I think if during this time where we're kind of pausing in some respect, I'm having a lot more productive conversations with people about the need for reflecting and reflection and curiosity and relationships in terms of clients, and the centrality of it. Whereas, a few years ago, that just wasn't even in the picture. It was more about speed, getting things done, and task, 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 task. And even if whatever we were doing, was tantamount to sort of a superficial engagement, it was better than nothing. So I don't know what your take is on that. If you're feeling or have felt that your approach has been, I don't know if appreciated is the right word, but that's what I mean. Valued, valued. That's what I mean.
um, yes, yes, it has. Are you talking about organizational or clients or
Oh,
both?
both, both, both.
Yeah,
Organizations, teams, or colleagues, and clients.
yeah, yes, it has. I mean, I've reminded both clients and organizations that I'm also part of what's taking place.
Mm.
We're also part of what's taking place at the moment. And it's been quite a joining conversation, COVID-19, the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's been quite joining because we're going through this together
Mm.
as well. We've got the anxieties, the fears, the uncertainty.
Mhm.
And that, in a way, sometimes that kind of like creates a balance of power
Yes.
in a
Yes.
sense, like,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know. So we've
Absolutely.
taken up that position, and some of the professionals, I don't think, it's interesting because sometimes they don't have a choice because we're going through this together.
Mm.
So when we talk about holding that power and wielding that power, it's been taken away in some contexts in regards to um, COVID
Mhm.
and the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's been useful because sometimes I've had conversations within professional settings about this idea of super people,
Yeah.
and how are we able to say, I can't do this now. It's really difficult, or you know, workers turning up and family members are ill, but they're just trying to make sure they do their hour. It's like
Crazy.
so
Crazy.
I think quite a lot of the organizations it's been quite yeah, it's been quite some of them have it's been quite a caring environment, checking in with people. Are
Mm,
you okay?
yeah.
You know, and that being kind of role modeling how how we should be with families. I said to her because this sometimes I laugh with colleagues about, you know, I'm in a profession where I'm introducing people how to relate to each other.
Mhm.
It's
It is
yeah.
what it is, man. It is what it is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's what it is, but this idea of like just being able to be present with people and each other to the dilemmas that we face from day to days, and COVID-19 has been quite, yeah, it's brought opportunity as well, opportunity from to have different conversations, just like I suppose Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
People are being repositioned, being given permission, um, opened up vulnerabilities,
Yes.
um, been empowering, um, yeah, a range of conversations it started.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that because I think you're absolutely on the nut on the button as far as that's concerned. Um, I think when I listen to us our discussion again, I'll get even more from it. Um, being a black therapist, a black male therapist, what's that like, or what has that been like?
Oh, what's it been like?
Mhm.
Um, what time is it?
Give me the snapshot, love. But
um,
lonely.
yeah, sometimes lonely, sometimes powerful, sometimes a struggle, sometimes like enlightening. It's been a range.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a range of things um, over the years. I mean, there's still, for me, there's still a dominant idea of what I'm supposed to be like, on
Okay.
how I'm supposed to practice.
Explain that. I can't let you get away with that. Come
Oh
on.
no, there's a it's just like knocking on someone's door and
Mm.
oh oh, it's just like somebody knocking on my door and asking me, do I live here? And me saying to them, yeah, I live here. So why do you think I don't live here?
Yeah, yeah.
They said, oh, but you don't look like you live here. So it's still like, and maybe that's something to do with like, um, um, images out there of therapists,
Mhm.
stories, and I'm talking about this. When I talk about, oh, do you live here? They may be from a range of different looking people, black people, white people, etc., a lot of different cultures. Um, whether I like it or not, there's still a dominant image of what a therapist is supposed to look like. Within my circles, as you can imagine, my circles is a variety of people of different ages, cultures within the therapeutic, within the clinical set, within the clinical roles.
Yes.
But outside of that, it's just like sometimes I live in a bubble. So I'm reminded from day to day, not from week to week, not from month to month, from day to day, decide the challenge of like people's different ideas of me being within a profession. And uh, that may range from people um people going to the people I supervise for ideas because it would be an insult if they came to me for ideas. So they will go to the people that I supervise and I may manage. Does that make sense?
Well, the way I'm thinking, I'm not pleased about that at all. But
Oh, because yeah, and it may be something about this challenge because of it might be a challenge to people to access me because I'm not their idea of what a therapist should look like.
is there a smidgen of undermining there? Is that what you're talking about? Or
Oh, yeah, there might be the undermining, there might be racial connotations, there might
okay,
be
okay.
there's loads of things. And this is not, I'm not saying this is like with everybody,
No.
because there's loads of joy, there's loads of like empowerment, there's loads of other things going on.
Mhm.
But my it's similar to being a black male to being a black therapist.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, so um narratives around how we're supposed to be. Um yeah, so even but I mean but being a black therapist also, it opens it up to the black community being able to access somebody who looks like them,
Yes.
somebody who might have similar or different stories,
Mhm.
somebody that they feel that they can be themselves without um, at times being judged,
Mhm.
someone where you see they can, and that doesn't mean that we speak the same language,
Yeah.
but they are able to come to me and feel and have a feeling or a different experience.
Mhm.
I'm trying not to make myself sound like a black person client can come to me and they'll get a better service. Yeah,
No.
I don't want to say, but they can have a therapeutic experience that they've been denied for many years. Let's say that,
Mhm. Mhm.
that they haven't been able to access for many years, because it is a different experience.
Mhm.
It's not this. It's not the same.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so being a black therapist, I mean, um, it's been tiring. It's been uplifting.
Okay.
It's like um, it's tiring in having to explain myself, uplifting because it's been quite. I feel a sense of pride,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, in being able to be in a position where I can create change, but also have an influence on therapy being seen behind a different kind of image.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
my hope is that like different people will also access the profession, but will also access the services. I think it's quite important because there's a we we can't just talk about it. We've got to be it.
Yes. Absolutely. It's a way of being.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a way of being, and that's with organizations, with self. It's not good enough to talk. We have to do as well,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think yeah, it's a personal journey. I mean, there's so much of black therapists.
I'm sure you have so much to tell us, but
Yeah. I think, but it's and it might change from day to day, depend on
oh,
their experience. I
mm,
mean, I believe I've gotten better at grounding myself in
mm,
believing in myself and my abilities.
mhm,
But it's just like there's a book called Standing in the Shadows, I think, where we talk about micro insults,
mhm.
so digs and
Yeah, take their
that can,
toll, don't they? Yeah.
yeah. And I always say this is not everything, because my career and my position as a black therapist, it's filled with joy. It's filled with like the pleasures, but I don't want to give a one-sided story. It's been a journey, and it continues to be a journey.
Mm, mm. I mean, I think as we move towards the end of our discussions, one of the things you mentioned was, and I guess I'd like you to share, if firstly, for people from our own communities who really struggle with accessing the appropriate help because of all kinds of issues, but a lot of them perhaps to do with that narrative around, you know, we don't want people to know our business and that sort of thing, and also for people who may be contemplating um, entering a career such as yours. What messages would you give those two sectors? Those who need to access or might feel fearful of accessing, and those who might want to actually um, do what you do.
Um, there's quite a few organizations out there, like for organizations, the Black, African, Asian therapeutic networks. that they can access, have conversations with other therapists or people within the clinical environment. Go to open days. And I say have the conversations. I mean, it's something that I do.
Mhm.
Someone ring me up, and not just um, for therapy, but just to get a bit of advice, or use me as a bouncing board to what would be the best way that I'm able to either access therapy or enter into some type of training.
Mm.
So there's quite a few organizations out there that you're able to access, and they'll be able to give you support in regards to, um, I was going to say softening the journey, but being able to walk the journey.
Mm. Mm.
And
Well, I'll get some of those contacts from you and put them in the notes.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that's not a problem.
But so, okay, so in a sense, you're encouraging people who may be curious about this work and this way of working. You would encourage them to have conversations with people.
Yeah, conversations with people. People can always, I mean, people can always email myself as well. I'll leave you some email and some
Mm.
contact numbers. They've got various organizations out there. Um, y- there's something about also a mindset of you deserve to access some of these trainings. You know, you deserve to be in some of these roles.
Yes.
And I say that because, sometimes there might be um, stories about, as Black people, what professions we're supposed to be in,
Mm.
or what professions, certain professions that are closed off to us. So once more, for me being within a profession, I'm trying to break down those stories, from stories that are promoted within our own culture,
Yeah.
but also outside as well.
Yeah. And what about some of the stories that we perpetuate around therapy and accessing help? Um, I must confess that again, since COVID, I'm hearing a lot more talk amongst my own people about the need for help and the need for potentially talking therapies and so on. So there seems to be more of an openness. Would that be your observation, do you think?
Um, yes, there is, but also I think you spoke about um, this story, or this idea about not talking to people outside.
Mhm.
I think it's a challenge. I think I was also brought up in that way, like we don't discuss things outside of the home.
Mm.
Um, and it's quite a powerful story. I mean, I've had quite a few conversations with clients and organizations about this idea, Black clients and clients from different cultures as well.
Mhm.
Just being able to acknowledge that where our relationship to help or support, where it comes from,
Mhm.
and being able to challenge that, but also do something, challenge that and do something different.
Mhm.
But being a place where it's okay to talk about, this is what has an influence on me being able to access a service,
Mhm.
and the therapist or the worker, the practitioner, feeling able and comfortable being able to sit with this with this who are you, why
Mhm.
should I talk to you,
Yeah.
don't you, will you lock me away,
Mhm.
will you give me a diagnosis, will you understand, but just being able to
Mhm.
sit with those feelings,
Yeah, and engage in
and
that discussion. Yeah.
yeah, and engage in that discussion, because it comes from somewhere. So um and it's really hard, because there's evidence to say that quite a lot of people of color have been institutionalized
Mhm.
when they access this service.
Yeah.
So understanding that,
Genuine and real fear.
yeah, genuine and real first. So it comes from somewhere. It's not just something that's made up. There's documented evidence about this. So um
I mean, that that reminds me very much of even if we look at what's happening now and a lot of our people's attitude to, for instance, the COVID vaccine. Um, what that brings up for a lot of people from Black and ethnic minority communities is, what are they trying to do to us?
yeah.
And that so-called paranoia doesn't come from nowhere. And in a sense, it might be, as you suggested, really valuable to sort of explore what that's about, where that comes from, uh, and really engage in the conversation rather than having some superficial approach to it, whereby, let's look at other Black people getting it, and that will make the others want to do it too.
Yeah. I mean, there's always.
It's ridiculous.
No, I agree. There's always one of my old supervisors used to say to me that there's always a story
Mm,
behind this.
yeah,
It,
absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so Tony, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I have no doubt that we can uh, connect or reconnect and have further discussions. I don't know if you would like to say anything about any current work that you're doing or anything that you've got lined up in the near future that you could share with us. Oh,
can you hear me? Sorry.
I was going to say, start again.
I believe I'm not sure if it's already on the website, but myself and my co-facilitator Dell will be running a Black men's group. It's called Black Men Real Talk. I believe we're going to be doing that within the first couple of weeks in February, and it's going to run for 6 weeks. What we'll do, we will leave some details, hopefully on your. Where would the details be posted, Sylvia? Would it be on the site? Or?
They've in actual fact they're already posted on our Facebook
Okay.
page, but I will just keep reposting. But yeah, so that those details will be posted on the Facebook page. They are already there, so that's already out there, and we'll keep reposting.
Yeah, I'm also.
What about your own contacts? Do you have a website? And
Oh yeah, I've got a website. I've got a website that people can access. The email address. Should I give that now or?
Well, I'll take all that
Oh,
information
wonderful.
and put it in the notes, because say it now, we'll all forget.
No, that's no problem. You can access my website and with my contact details and the services that I offer. I mean, people have questions. Please do send me an email. I'm really open to sharing my experiences, but also, knowledge. I think it should be shared.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like so anywhere I can be of help.
Great. Tony Charles, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem, Sylvia. Thank you very much for making the time and giving me the space.
No, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Sylvia, there's so much I didn't talk about.
Don't worry, next time.
Listen, take care.